Before we say the prayer, I'd like to make one note. I'm old enough to have learned the pledge to the flag when we recited it in grade school before General Eisenhower added the phrase, under God, when he was president. The comma for that clause or words is after God, not after nation. So the correct way of saying that is one nation under God. Then move ahead. So it's certainly an honor to lead the pledge. Please join me.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good to see everyone here. Before we get started, I'd like to make an announcement. Mr. Mark Kelly, our commissioner, is going to be out for about 6 to 8 weeks. And I think, Rush, he told you if you really need him, he would come. Is that what he told you? Okay. And also, I'd like to recognize that Mr. Jake Dyer is here, and he's with the Coffee County Youth Leadership. Would you stand up, please? All right. All right. Let's do the roll call. All right, let's have a count. Okay. All right, has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda? Entertain a motion to approve the agenda? Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? If not, let's vote. I think I'm getting a little ahead of you, Ken, Emma? Okay. Let's have a count. Okay. I'll give you a minute to type in the next piece. All right. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes, the previous minutes? Entertain a motion to approve them. All right, do we have a second? Any discussion? If not, let's vote, please. All right, let's have a count. Okay. Okay, we're on item 7, resolution of memorial sympathy and commendations. We have nothing for that. We'll go to number 8, election and appointments and confirmations. All right.
Notaries. Bonnie C. Brown, Henrietta S. Drinkall, Frank E. Lamburn, Amanda E. Montez, Roxanne Patton, Mary E. Ross, Heather D. Shelton, Mimi White, Roger J. Bean, Loretta C. Burt, Linda J. Roper, Linda Diane White, Frederica Williams.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. All right, do we have a second? Okay, any discussion?
Your Honor, Mr. Mayor, there is one on here in particular that I'm not sure she's really up to it.
Oh, really?
I'm just teasing, Roxanne. I figured it was a light meeting.
I didn't think you were talking about me.
Oh, well, no, I wasn't.
So you do have a comment?
Not anymore.
All right, any other discussion? Oh, question been called, let's vote, please. All right, let's have the count. 18. Hang on just a minute, give him time to...
Mr. Mayor,
Jail review.
you
Yes,
kind of
sir.
went kind of fast there, and I don't know. I don't want to be out of order or anything, and someone can call me out of order if I am. But on the memorials and on number 7. I would like for us to. We had a couple of individual past county employees that lived down in my district that passed away since the last commission. Mr. Rose and Mr. Sherrill, who were members of our law enforcement for several years, and I would like for the commission to recognize them.
Okay.
I plan on doing Mr. Cheryl next month. I don't
And
know who
if
that
we
other
could
person
add
is.
Mr. Rose in there
Yeah.
as well.
He used to
Okay.
be a jailer, didn't he, Mr. Rose?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. Ms. Patton.
Number 9, reports. County officials standing in special committee. Jail review committee report. Mr. Berry?
Using this, sorry. So after I received that email from Mike Lee, I called Mary Ann, asked her to begin the process of purchasing the land. So we'll have to get some of that other $1 million. We'll have to dip into the second million a little bit to buy the land. But we've got progress on those counts. The other thing I have right here in my, I hope I don't drop it, this package of drawings is a 95% design package. Any of you want to review this, you're more than welcome to. A couple hundred pages. If you want a PDF, feel free to contact Marion Folks with the architectural firm. I'm sure that he can get it on a CD or a DVD. I don't think it'll fit on a CD, but he can get it on that, and we can get copies that way. I think that's the smartest, most secure way, and that way we know how many copies we've released if we release any. I'm going to go ahead and contact Marion about getting one for Mark, because he was very specific that he wanted one, and I'll go ahead and address that one. But this one's available in the mayor's office. Anybody wants to come by and review it. The other items I have are up on the board, and I'm going to walk over there to address them. I won't take too much. I know we have a fairly short schedule, and I don't want to draw it out to great length, but I'd like to kind of summarize where we are with everything at this point, because we are at a kind of a tilting point. From here, you know, we're 95% design. It's kind of a downhill tumble. properties we've been talking about all along. Sure. That side. That's our 44 acres. We're looking at putting the jail, the office portion of the jail here, and two existing pods here and here, with plans for a third inmate pod. We have, if and when we need it. There's room set aside for a judicial building, if and when we need it. The only correction to this drawing is this road will not curve, it's going to do more like this, connect to the highway. There just wasn't much sense in making it spread out here. That will give us a nice building site here if we or somebody else needs it, and the same over here. We'll have some space back here if there's something functional we need. Rest of this, right over here, these pieces are 6 acres of wetland. Okay? So that's the layout of the land. We have done the core samples in this area, and construction manager is working with that information to give us a final estimate, budget estimate for the cost, because apparently how much dirt he has to pull out of here makes a significant difference to his cost. Now, zoom in on the jail itself. This is the front entrance. The judicial, I'm trying to get y'all perspective. The highway is over here. Front entrance, judicial complex, if and when, would be over in this area. All of this is parking. There's a, you can't really see it. There's a red line. Goes, I'll hang my eyes back, I'm so sorry. I thought this was the entrance. The entrance is here. Yeah, the road's down here, I'm sorry. I got it completely. I was thinking this is the Sally Port when it was Spring Prison. In. All of this is secure. All of this portion is secure. This is the sheriff's offices, detective's offices, things like that. In this center portion, you want to see the details, you start to look up here. We have several places set aside for classrooms. This is to accommodate Catherine, I can't recall her last name, but the lady who's wanting to start the educational rehab program here in Coffee County. She talked to us a couple meetings ago. Classrooms in here. There's future corridor to the judicial system that would be, the judicial complex that would be out here. One piece that's not on here that the architect is meeting with the judges is in this area will be a couple of small arraignment rooms. Don't want to call it a courtroom because that's not what it is. It's not a courtroom. It's just a small room where the judge can meet with counselors, prisoners, a very small group of people. Bob will probably explain it a lot better than I can. The judges specifically asked for it. They said it will cut down on a lot of the inmate traffic between here and the justice center by having two small rooms right here and here for them to conduct some of the arrangements. That's all here. Like I said, the architect is meeting with the judges this week. Actually, they met with them late last week to get the specifics on this. The other concept is that this would be used in the future for some other function. It could be used for inmate holding, for the inmates waiting to come in to the judicial center for trial or whatever, or some other function. They will be behind the secure areas, so these two rooms will be available for secure use But in the meantime, they will have doors here and here so that we have access, public access. If you have that public access to any kind of board. That's the subject.
Commissioner, before we start getting questions, could you turn that around and show the audience that first piece, and then show them and then we'll let the commissioners ask questions.
This pink line is the land we've been talking about, buying 44 acres. This piece here is the main piece that's wetlands, it's up a little bit here. Dale put it out this area, future judicial, building, parking. Have this area and this area available for other functions, and also some back to other functions being wheel life. We can sell this land off, park without money. County can do whatever they want. So, show you that one real quick, and I'll. This is where the sheriff's office. All of this is secure. The classrooms are in the center portion, the teachers will make it out, but they're also still secure. This is where the judicial arrangements. So, courtroom, courthouse is down in this area. And there's room for a portal. And this is for the head
I'll let you ask one question, then we've got to let the commissioners go ahead.
For all of those areas, including the judicial center, all that wetlands delineated, was that
Yes.
all, the whole
Yes.
44 acres basically defined?
Yes, good question, and it's very, the entire east side was delineated, full wetlands delineated. And they found this piece, small piece here, on the edge. Somebody's gonna notice that we have a roadway going through this piece that's marked as wetland. TJ said by law, by rule, if it's smaller than a certain size, it's okay to go through. And they know that we're doing this, and they still concur with our assessment.
And for the record, how many acres
6,
was wetlands
total of 6 acres.
out of 44?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's predominantly over here. That is the side away from town. Closest to American Salvage. Yeah, that's where the most of the wetland is.
That'd be going toward Hillsborough then.
Yeah, Hillsborough is out 14. Like I said, there's a couple of small patches here, but they're right on the edge of the property anyway. So they're not very useful.
Okay. Let's open it up for the commissioners.
Okay?
Any questions?
Okay. Place as if Hillsborough Road, Hillsborough Highway is up here. Each of these pods can house 200 inmates. Any given sector or quadrant, pod, now, what do they call it, sector?
Quadrant.
Quadrant. Any one of these quadrants can house male or female. You can have male in this one, female right next to it. Male in the next one, female in the next one. If you want to do it that way, I can't imagine you would. Point being, female population drops off, then we can redesignate for the black male population. A lot of flexibility. So I would say right off the bat, we'll probably, I don't know how the sheriff will do it, I'll speculate and say, we'll say this one's going to be male, two of these will be female, the other two will be whatever the rest is.
Ken.
But that's just my
So your plan, Sheriff, is to work with the judges and to keep the work detail? So you're going to manage your population, is what you're saying?
I was just going to ask, is this not going to interfere with the work parties that go out and clean the roads up, stuff like that, or it's still going to continue on as necessary?
Planning on continuing,
Even possibly doing a garden out back?
Sheriff, if you don't mind for the record, you said, how much did you say said it saved the community by letting the Tullahoma, Manchester, and the rural use those?
The last study we did at minimum wage, and at the time we were working 55 inmates, we estimated between $800,000 and $1 million it was saving taxpayers per year.
Per year.
offsetting that is a problem of occupating from the back end.
Yes, and that's why we've looked at the X-ray machine that I gave everyone on the jail committee, and probably need to get some more made for the other commissioners. I think it more than pays for itself in the long run.
I think, I might say something. I think,
Right.
when we allow them to sit there all day long doing nothing, I think we're really hurting ourselves. For when they get out, that's what they're going to do still, you know. They can be motivated while they're in there to do things and maybe even learn something, you know, just stay busy.
Chris doesn't know this, but I talked to Elizabeth yesterday. We got approved for the federal, for them to start on our female population. And as of May 4th, they hope to start the technical school at the jail itself.
Does all the commissioners know what he's talking about? Okay. Sheriff, if you don't mind, would you kind of inform the audience what you're talking about with Miss Elizabeth?
Elizabeth started a program in Franklin County. She's originally from Coffee County. I'm like Chris, I can't think of her last name right now. It's called a reentry program. Hopkins, yes. It's a reentry program, and what it does, they went and got grant money to educate people that are incarcerated, and not only educate them, they teach them how to dress, how to act, how to, you know, fill out resumes, how to present themselves when they do job interviews. And for the last probably year and a half, they have been placing a lot of people from Franklin County in jobs in Coffee County. So we had been talking to her, and part of the grant was that they had to work in 8 females. Well, Franklin County does not have 8 females in their jail that would meet the specs for this program. And right now we're setting at just under 50 female inmates, and that's how we're going to start the program. They're going to start with 8 women that has a high school education and send them through technical school, basically, is what they're going to do. And when they come out of jail, they hope to place them in a job in Coffee County.
If you release 100 prisoners and 50 of them don't come back, you're well off.
Well, I think that figure is going to be, Mr. West, I think she told us about, out of all the prisoners that went through this program, it's been about 80% are still working.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's good, but the true figure, though, is 80%. So it's a lot better than...
Sheriff Graves,
That's for people that has finished the program.
okay, are you planning on using the mobile unit that she presented to us until you have a room available at the new jail?
We decided to go ahead and use the existing classroom, the John Berry room. And I hadn't even told Ken yet, I've got to come up with some way to hook up computers. They are furnishing all the computers. But because of the availability of the restroom and it still being inside the secured area, we decided to use that classroom. The bus is available, but it would take up probably half of our parking in that area, so we decided to use the John Berry room.
I'd like to say I did have the privilege of meeting Mrs. Hopkins and Monty Burks, who's a job placement specialist, and I was very impressed with the program. And I expressed to her at the same time that I'd been wanting something like this, hoping we get something like this for Coffee County, and she just happened to mention that she had some grant money she thought maybe that could possibly come this direction. So I was very impressed with it.
We have started the GED program on 2 different occasions at the jail, and on both occasions we had to stop it because we had to use the room that they were using for the GED program to house inmates while we did work on other cells of the jail. So, yeah. But by using the room we have available, you know, it's the people that are going to enter this program. They're very, very well screened, and it's not a short-term program. It's a full technical school.
How many months is it, Sheriff? Was it 16 months?
14 to
14,
16
okay.
months. I think. No. She's hoping later on the people for short-term she could offer the GED program.
Well, they still be short-term, though, Commissioner, 11/29, unless they do a felony. Yes.
With the program we have now, she wants 8 females to start the technical school.
Any other questions?
I have a couple.
No, yeah, go ahead. That's an air conditioner coming on, Commissioner. That's a fan motor.
Bond resolution to fund the jail. So part of tonight's meeting of covering this information is hopefully we'll reduce some of the time we need in May. But I'm going to ask them just to go on record here, because I'll be is one to cover the the jail committee meetings between there and May, so all committee commissioners might plug in. But we certainly want to know, in addition to the constructional costs, the equipment costs that might also be necessary to fully staff the jail. So that budget needs to be certainly part of that capital plan. I'd also like the architect to at least lay out, just for information, what a third pod in the day's pricing would run, so we can kind of reflect on it. Hopefully be a long time before we need it, but for future commissioners that are not here, probably myself included, they can look back and say, had we built this back in 2012, it would only cost $2 million, and there they're paying $8 million for it, something.
Okay, I'll go ahead and address as much of that as I can. I think that's a good idea to find out what the cost of a third pod is, just so we'll have some idea. This Friday at 9 o'clock, Jim Hart with CTAS is meeting with as many of the jail review, and I know this is the first you heard of it, because the first I heard of it was 5 minutes before the meeting. He's the guy with CTAS who was tasked with doing an operational analysis of the old and I think the new jail facility. Friday, we're meeting with him to discuss his findings. Is that right, Roxanne? In that? Okay, I just want to make 9 o'clock at the jail, at the John Berry building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yes, I agree that we need to know the operational cost. Like I said before, the only piece of information we're waiting to get a finalized budget number from the construction manager is the results from the core samples. And Elvis, last week, he said that it'll take a couple of weeks for him to get that information, because he does more than just stick it, apparently he does more than just stick it into a simple formula. He calls a bunch of people and he gets prices, and he puts a lot of effort into it, so that budget number is more than just a wild guess. It's a pretty well thought out plan.
Okay. Does any other commissioners have any questions? Mr. Berg?
I've got just two quick questions. The first one is, who is it that's responsible for negotiating the purchase of the property on behalf of the county?
I would think that's Mariana.
I'll be working with Bob, the county attorney.
Okay, I didn't know if the county had a real estate agent or anything like that, but
No, I'm actually the purchasing agent, so
is that Andy then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I guess the second part of that is, are we going to attempt to negotiate a lower price than what was originally stated, now that we know that about 15% of the land is unusable?
I think that I don't know that specifically, but without thinking about it real hard, my first thought would be no, because it's a pretty decent price for that much land, and if we start negotiating, the possibility of it going up exists. I don't know what he gave for it. I just know that the $475,000, if you look at it on a per acre basis, is a pretty good price per acre for industrial land in the Manchester area.
Commissioner Chance, you got another question?
No, I mean, that was it. I was just curious, knowing that, like I said, about 15% of it not being usable, if there's any way we can negotiate, at least on those 6 acres, a lesser amount, because it'll never be used, and it can't be used, so why pay full price for something that can't be used?
Okay.
I don't think it was genuine when we say play full price. He, like that owner, like the rest of the people that offered land at a price. This was the tract of land as it was.
Bob, can you use your microphone, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. When we put this out for bid, several different owners of property priced their property to the county. We had certain criteria that we asked for, a certain amount of acreage to be usable out of it. We recognized when we put it out that there would be some portions on any of it that might not be usable. There'd be some of it that would be more difficult to work with than others, and we looked at then each of those properties in making the selection, and a decision was then made as which one was the better one of those, and we had that at a price. We made at least the appearance of accepting it at that price. I think it would be, if I were an owner who'd made a bid price, and then we came back and tried to shift at that time, I would look on it very suspiciously, and I might try to get a higher price after all this money had been spent laying it out there, and we might end up giving it to it. So I think we need to stick with our word just like anything else.
And that's fair enough. I just try, when I'm looking at purchases, I look at it from more of a personal perspective, and how would I spend the money, and if I was going to be writing a personal check for the property, I would at least, knowing, because before there was a lot of unknowns, and now we have those unknowns as knowns, and I guess I just look at it from the perspective of, would I write a check for 15% of the property that is unusable and pay $10,000, $12,000 per acre or $11,000 per acre for property that I can't use and develop at any point in time in the future. So that's the only reason why I bring it up, is when I look at it from a perspective of, would I pay that? Can I justify paying that when someone in the district calls me or something along those lines? Is it justifiable to say, yeah, we know we can't use it, but we're still going to pay the full asking price for it? That's all I was getting at.
Well, it still definitely qualifies for what we want to do, and that's what we were seeking. We required that there be, when the offers were made, that one of the conditions was there was a certain number of acres had to be usable. So we approached it with the understanding that there was going to be some that was not usable. And of course, if we were doing this individually, if you were doing it, you wouldn't be putting a bid price out either and having to do it. You just, as a county, you got to do some things a little differently. Some of it's not as handy as it would be otherwise individually.
And Bob, when you say that about there was a certain number that had to be usable, what percentage was that?
I think it had to have as minimum, I think it was
20 usable
20 usable acres.
Okay.
And we've got a good bit more than that. Matter of fact, there's some of them that wouldn't have 20 usable.
Commissioner Farrer?
I'd just like the commission keep in mind, the longer we do wait, the higher it will cost as far as excavation and construction. Starting the building should have been started a month ago, but the longer we wait, closer to the fall and so forth, the construction for that building and site will be going up. So, if we keep delaying, it's not a good practice to start building in fall or winter.
Okay. Any other commissioner?
Yeah, I want to say that there was no request to delay anything. It was just a matter of question as to whether or not the price would be negotiated. So, okay, and that's all I want to be clear on, was there was no request to
All right.
delay anything.
Any other question? Commissioner Alford?
Well, I pushed my little button up there, and I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing, but up there on the screen.
You're next.
I got a question for Chris, I guess, just for clarification and point of information. I've heard a little bit of conversation about the wetlands or the 6 acres. Is there any provision? I know that the sheriff has to have certain types of provisions for exercise, those types of things. Is there anything in the stipulation that you can't do other things other than building on that piece of property, or is it totally I mean, there's other things that he has to have available for inmates to meet state statute. So, and I'm hearing some concerns about land and things. One of the things that concerns me when you were dealing and speaking about a jail, I'm not necessarily as concerned about not having. I'm more concerned about not having enough land because for what you're putting on there, liability-wise, you want to be able to maintain those grounds and to be able to have enough land that secures the building, that secures the structure of what you're housing. So, and to give the sheriff and the county a better opportunity to provide all the services for the state and for future growth.
Okay, go ahead. And then Commissioner Patton has a question.
One of the things you mentioned was stuff like exercise. Let's see if I get this right. The concept is that we'll be able to use these sections outside the walls here and or here for exercise. We'll have a fence and the doorway access for the inmates to have exercise. But yes, those are things that have to be required.
Chris, how far away is that from the, I mean, what's the distance of when we're talking about the acreage in proximity to where the wetlands are at, and can wetlands be used for those types of things?
I don't think, Eric, you might be able to answer better, but I don't think the wetlands is used for anything.
Right, and it basically boils down to, when you're looking at it from a regulatory aspect, is that the wetlands can't be cut or filled in. So if there's existing, mass of trees and things like that, you're not. Now, Chris is correct when he was saying that on the south side behind the jail, the road can pass through a sliver of it, because under state law, if it's less than a quarter acre of disturbance, you're free to do whatever you want to do. You just have to obtain the necessary permits. But in regard to the rest of it, like the chunk out in front, if there's a standing mass of trees that are part of the cell itself, you can't remove them. You can't cut the area. You can't fill the area, things like that. So it almost has to stay undisturbed. And I don't know how that impacts. I know we've done construction on a site before, Morgan County State Penitentiary, where we had to maintain, I guess it'd be called kill zones, and we had to make sure that all the, whether it be the wetland vegetation or stream vegetation, had to be no higher than a certain height to be able to maintain that. But in regards to those 6 acres, they pretty much have to remain undisturbed.
I think what you're talking about is, you'll see these are the little slivers I talked about that might be used for exercise. We also have this section behind. If the sheriff wants to and can have a large kind of a garden, the cost of securing a portion of this by extending the fence is pretty minimal. Or it may not have to be, I don't know what the rules about, it may not have to be a secure facility. We could use the day program we have in the here for the big garden. I think that's the kind of thing you're asking about. That's what this plan has been back to. But it does prohibit anything from being built right here. Not only can it not be built anything.
Okay. Commissioner Patton, you had a question?
Yes, as commissioners, I think that we should try to save money wherever we can. And we're responsible for the building of this. We're responsible for the taxpayers' money. I think we should try to cut a corner wherever we can. If there's 6 acres on there and it's not usable for anything, then maybe we could try. We can go back to these people and say, well, then you can't sell the 6 acres, even if they said, okay, I'm not going to take that. I'm just take it off the table, which I know we're way into it deep now to do that. But we could at least try. Because we can say, well, you can't sell these 6 acres to someone else because we've done this survey. We know that they can't be used for anything. So I think we should at least go back and see. I mean, if they mark it down any at all, we tried.
Okay. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Commissioner Alford.
I agree with 100% of what you're saying. from listening to the county attorney, though, it seems like as we made the,
Yes.
as we put it out like that, we've already set the stage for what we were looking for. And it never hurts to go back. But I think with the way the bid, it sounds to me like the way the bid was put out, placed, we set our precedent when we, you know, if we want to go back from the full drawing board, I think that we're getting on shaky ground, because we could end up, as the mayor said, either paying more or maybe having to start all over. So you have to be, I think we need to use some caution as we do this.
All right, any other commissioner?
Mayor Pennington?
Yes.
I'd like to ask Chris, without putting him on the spot, do you recall how many acres is the actual footprint of the jail going to use?
No, I don't have a specific number.
Just as a rough guess, put my hand over that.
I guess a better question would be, how many square feet is the facility?
Something on the order of 75,000.
That's less than 2 acres. And what, I mean, isn't there 43,400 square feet in an acre or something like that?
43,560.
Yeah, not close.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions? If not, I'm going to let Ms. Singles ask one question to Mr. Byrd.
Actually, it's a comment.
Okay. Go ahead.
I wanted to respond to Mrs. Fann's, what she had said. All politics aside, I don't think there's anyone in this county disputes that we shouldn't use these inmates in whatever way possible we can to help us out, lower our costs. And, you know, when the inmates come in, I mean, there are probably drug dogs that are semi-retired that could be kept in the facility that could be using to scan these inmates when they come in. Also, you know, I don't know your process, but, and I'm sure they're very dirty when they come in. Do they come in and, you know, they take them to a facility, I mean, to an area, have them strip down their clothes, go in, take a shower, put new clothes on. This way, then they may not be able to carry that contraband into the facility.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to accept this report.
So much.
Okay, we got, you on a second? You, okay. Any discussion? If not, let's vote, please. All right, let's have the count, please. 19, yes, we've gained one. Ms. Patton?
Number 10, unfinished business. I didn't know.
Okay.
Number 11, new business. A, budget amendments.
I have one budget amendment to read. It's number 116-2012-04. Decrease undesignated fund balance of $24,000. That should say unassigned. We don't use undesignated anymore. Increase to waste pickup for the purchase of a motor vehicle, $24,000. This was approved by Budget and Finance on March 29th.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? If not, let's vote, please. Thank you. All right. Let's see. We're waiting on Ms. Thomas. There we go. All right, let's have the count. Okay. All right. Ms. Patton, are you on B?
B, Resolution 2012-06, resolution authorizing submission for a waste tire grant from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation and authorizing the acceptance of said grant.
Move it be approved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And we have a second. Any discussion?
I've just got two questions. The first one is there a match involved? No? Okay. And what kind of legal obligations will be imposed on the county? And these questions are general to both this resolution and the next one, so.
Do you want to answer his question about the legal side?
Catch it. What was your question?
The second whereas on both resolutions, I don't want to jump to the second one, but it's on the same one, say the same thing. The second whereas, the contract for the grant will impose certain legal obligations upon the county. I'm just curious what those legal obligations would be that would be placed upon us. Are they fiscal in nature? Are they just you've got to do these certain things to maintain the grant?
Winella, do you have the answer that he's needing? Can you come up to the podium, please? Well, then you're going to have to speak in your big girl voice.
The grant specifies certain things that we have to do to get this money. We don't do it, we don't get paid.
That's the only way it obligates us? Uh-huh.
Mr. Chairman, I believe these are the same types of grants we've been getting, we've been acquiring for years, is it not, Mr. Bell?
Is it the same ones, Randy? Same ones we always get? Okay, same grant though we've been getting? Okay.
Here's some information that explains it pretty well on the desk.
And I read that. I know we got it right before the meeting, but I did read through it, and I didn't see any. I didn't pick out where the obligations were. I saw a narrative for work plans and educational components and things such as that. I just didn't see anything that detailed legal obligations.
It's pretty basic. I think it's the same things that we've been, getting for years for the various grants for the litter and for tire and waste.
Any other discussion? If not, let's vote, please. All right, let's have the count. Okay. Ms. Patton?
Resolution 2012-07, resolution authorizing submission for a litter and trash collection grant from the Tennessee Department of Transportation and authorizing the acceptance of said grant.
Move it be approved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Okay. Now, any discussion? Question's been called. Let's vote, please. All right, let's have the count. All right, thank you. Okay. You have anything under D?
No.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Statements and announcements.
Does any of the commissioners have any announcements? Okay. Does the audience, anybody in the audience have a statement or announcement? Okay. Come up.
I do have a question, and I just want to make sure that it's proper to do this, but we had a couple of commissioners, audibly, Ms. Phan and Ms. Thomas, make comments a little bit earlier, and I'd like to ask them directly a question for answer, if that's okay.
Okay.
I don't think any taxpayers, the public at large, is ever going to disagree that we need a work program. I think Sheriff Graves does a lot with a little, and to keep them busy is in the best interest of this public and into that jail population. How they get used does become an issue, and I'm interested, since you're commissioners, about proper and improper use of those trustees. No one knows if those stories, at least I don't, if those stories that were printed in a newspaper are true or not. I saw photos. Kind of hard to dispute what you see in those photos. In the weeks since then, I've heard lots of other things. Again, they're all alleged. I don't know if they're true or not. But I'm coming to you two ladies to ask you, do you think the use of trustees as your personal assistant to perform labor on your personal property is correct? Use of a trustee, is that okay? I'm just curious.
Okay. Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay. Now, okay, after y'all answer this, she's asked her question, you give her your answer, and that's it. Go ahead.
I don't have any, I have seen the inmates washing police cars. I have no problem with that. The medical bills that we pay out as taxpayers of this county, because the inmates sit in their cells with nothing to do, so they end up in big fights. I would much rather them be out there washing police cars, picking up trash. Now, the mayor's car, I do not know if Ms. Superstein is furnished a car by the city or not. If she is, then I have no problem with them washing that car if she's using it in duty. But I sure have no problem with the inmate. I have had a son in that jail, and the best thing for him was washing the cars than to sit in that jail. And I trust Steve. I trust the people that I've been around where I've seen this going on. But I do feel like that there are some troublemakers, and they're writing articles that maybe they don't know what they're talking about. I've read letters to the editors that they've written and used other people's names. And I'm quite frankly tired of it.
Right.
That's why I
Okay.
say that.
Yeah, and I'm not debating any of those
No,
personal
wait.
issues. I'm just strictly asking
Wait
what
just
is
a
right
minute.
and what's wrong.
Wait a minute. Okay, the other two commissioners, if you have an answer to her question,
What exactly do you want me to answer about?
Well, and
what are you
actually,
asking?
restate your
No problem.
question.
And actually, it was Miss Frisbee that brought this up earlier, not Miss Fan.
well, just ask your question, because we're,
Okay. Well, in terms of the discussion about the trustees and their personal feelings they put out here tonight about ignorant this and that, I just want to make sure that we're on the same plate and platter as taxpayers, citizens, and public officials in understanding what those guys can be used for and what they may not be used for. In terms, I want to keep them busy too, but I don't want to violate federal and state law for slave labor either.
okay.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
I guess what is your
Okay.
what is your opinion about how they can and can't be used?
Well, that can be used to, and I'm sure the sheriff will back up what I'm saying to you. We don't use, the city of Manchester, the police department, we haven't used anybody to clean out any buildings that belonged to any person, nor did we have, when the mayor's car was washed, and I'm sure that's what you're getting at, she uses that car in public or for city business and county business also.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with that, and Tullahoma does it all the time. Tullahoma has the mayor's car washed and the aldermanic people's cars washed. There's nothing wrong with that. So, and I don't think anybody said, I understand the comment was made that it was ignorant writing, and I'm totally in agreement with Mrs. Fan that I'm tired of the subjects being brought up without any validation. They don't come, they don't check, they hadn't been to City Hall. So when you write something, you ought to be able to tell the truth. If you can't, don't write it.
Well, that's why I'm here tonight. I wanted to ask
Okay.
the question.
You got your answer. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. All in favor, stand up, please.
You can't vote.